Hey y'all, happy Sunday and welcome to this week's live Q&A session. This is the portion of the show where we allow YouTube to send out notifications that we're going live. If you're watching this live Q&A on replay, please scrub ahead until this graphic disappears and the actual show begins. If you're watching live and you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and put them in the live chat. But for now, grab a beverage, sit back, and relax while the countdown timer does its thing. Then we'll get started. Hey y'all, happy Sunday. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope things are going your way. It appears that some of y'all are in the middle of a heat wave. This too shall pass. Although, it is summer. So what can you say? It is officially summer also, I might add. And I'm happy for it. I'm tired of shivering. Little sweating is good for you, clears out the pores. But again, this too shall pass. So today is an open Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I've got a couple things to talk about, but we'll get into those in just a minute. First, I do want to say hello to and give a shout out to Steve over at Harneal Media, the sponsor of Mark Lindsay CNC.com. I've been singing Steve's praises for years, and I'm going to keep doing it until he tells me to stop anyway. And it's mainly because he not only sponsors my website, he takes care of a lot of other things back behind the scenes. And that's something that you get with Harneal Media that a lot of other uh, web hosts just won't give you. They leave you to do it all by yourself unless you're ready to pay big, huge bucks to have them take care of it for you. Steve isn't like that. He is very, very competitively priced. And it's 100% personalized service. If you want a web store, he's got you covered. If you want to be able to get your products and services out to the public at large without paying commissions, without listing fees, and without your competition being advertised on your page, he's got you covered. If you're thinking about getting merch, you want to sell T-shirts, coffee cups, baseball caps, mouse pads, whatever, he's got you covered. You know, if you're experienced in running a website, he can back off and just take care of the back end with all the updates and all that other stuff. Or if you're like me and have no idea what you're doing, he can help you keep your website tuned and up to date. So, about the only thing I can say is head over to harnealmedia.com. There's a link down in the description and hit that contact us link and just give him a shout. He'll work with you, he'll talk with you, and come up with a solution that fits you and your business. I mean, it's time to take control of your business. And the best way to add legitimacy to your business is with your own website. And the only person I'm ever going to endorse is Steve over in Harneal Media. And that's because it's 100% personalized service. So thank you, Steve. Thanks for everything you do, both behind the scenes and out here in front of the scenes. I really appreciate you. So, let's see here. The one of the things that I want to talk about is oops, I scrolled a little bit when I shouldn't have. um, I put up a poll on the community tab of my YouTube channel. And I'll go ahead and bring that in now. And this is it. It's a very, very simple poll question. I had to do this incognito because it was showing the back end, and I don't want y'all to see the back end. That's for me. Very simple poll question. I've been doing my Sunday live streams at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, right this time slot right here. Been doing this for several years now. Is that too early in the day? Should I move to Sundays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern? And it's a simple question, yes or no. I can tell you that right now, no is ahead, but there's only been 61 votes. I think that is mainly from my UK contingent because right now it's evening and everything's cool. And the folks in the UK can watch us comfortably. But if I switch to 5 p.m. Pacific, that is like 2 in the morning their time. So it's less convenient for the folks in the UK. I understand that completely. And I see a few people, commenting here in the chat, and that's great. But please go over, there's a link down in the, there's a link down in the description. Please go over and vote. That way it's easier for me to count. I can't keep track of who's saying yes or no here in the chat. So come over here. There's a link in the description down here and vote. I've only got 61 votes. So that's not enough of a metric really for me to say yes, no, or maybe. So do me a favor, please. Head over to my community tab and vote in that poll. Channel members, you'll have to scroll down a couple of posts to get to it. But please vote in the poll because that's really going to be the only way I'm going to know whether the change is warranted or not. So thank you very much. I mean, I also posted it over on Facebook, and I got a bunch of people talk down in the comments saying, yes, no, maybe, whatever. And it's like, okay, that's fine, but go over here, because I can't be going back over to Facebook. Number one, because some people are giving me comments on Facebook, which I love, but they've also voted. And I don't want to count a vote twice. You get what I'm saying? Because their Facebook is not the same thing as the name that they're using over here on YouTube. So, what can I say? Um, it's just something that I've been wondering. Basically, I put it Sunday at noon Pacific and 3 p.m. Eastern because there were a couple of live streams that were going on in the evening on Sundays, and I didn't want to overlap with them or interfere with them. Well, those people have stopped live streaming on Sundays, so now I won't. I won't be overlapping with them. So it's wide open to me. But I want your opinion because I don't want to lose half of you. So, all right, we'll get off of that. Let's see. Now I do have one question in the queue. I think that's all that was put out here while we were talking about this. But yeah, okay, that's only one question. And I'll get to that in just a couple minutes. But I did want to show something because I've had a couple of questions with version 12.5 being released and a couple of updates coming since its release as they fix bugs and tweak things and do this, that, and the other. Some things I agree with, some things I don't. I wanted to again touch on updating the software. So I'll go ahead and get into that right now. And you can see I have Aspire 12.503 loaded. And if we look over here in blue, it says version 12.504 available. This is a minor update fixing bugs and what have you. And I wanted to show probably the easiest way to get this taken care of. So I don't bother with the blue link. Some people have had problems with the blue link, but the way I do it, I have never ever had an issue. That is to come up here to help and then come down here to check for updates. And it will go through. It wants me to user account control. Do you want me to allow this app to make changes? Yes. And then this is going to load up. Now from here, I need to close Aspire because it's going to update the program, and it can't do it if it's running. So I'll click Next, and it'll click. The update application needs to restart. I'll click OK. It'll do its thing. Then it'll open this up. There's a newer version of Aspire 12.5 available. Please click Next to proceed with the update. So Next, and it's going to do its thing. It's going to disappear and reappear a few times. And it did over my other monitor. Ready to patch. Click Start to proceed. Start. And here we go. It takes it a couple of seconds, depending upon what all is got to do. Patch was successful. Click Finish. And it's going to launch, in my case, Aspire. This is the same for vCarve. Now, you were successfully updated to version 12.504, just like it says up here. Would you like to see the release notes now? You can always view them later. I go ahead and I look at the release notes to see what they fixed. And the release notes will open in a browser page. And here's what they fixed. Component tab label, document links for vCarve and vCarve inlay, toolpaths, a bunch of different little fixed a crash during simulation rendering. Basically, they fixed a bunch of bugs. That's great. That's all well and good. The important thing is I am now updated, so everything is cool in that regard. So that is the easiest way to get updates, which is what this was, and upgrades. If you come from version 12 and you want to update to 12.5, that's the same way. I always go over to Help and then check for updates, and that always works. I never have an issue. So, all right, let's see here. I do have one question that I will get to, and that is from David, Vortex 8. Mark, I'm saving up for a new machine with a rotary function, and I wonder what you think of Avid, or if there was another machine I should think of. Well, David, obviously I'm a little bit biased. I have an Avid 4x4 with a rotary, and I think it's a killer machine. I really think it's dynamite. I love it, and if somebody wants to take it, they're going to have a fight on their hands. But again, I'm biased. What I would tell you before you spend a penny is to research various machines. But sit down and take an honest assessment of what you want to do, of what you plan on doing, and what your needs are. Because I will tell you, the rotary attachment does take up usable space. Now, I configured mine to run along my y-axis. It runs parallel to the y. But that encroached on the table width-wise. Now, the Avid 4x4 or 4848 Pro, however you want to put it, the actual capacity width-wise was just under, well, it was right at 50 inches. And that was for uh, 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 the width of a sheet of like MDF or particle board because they are 49 inches. But the bit still has to move a little bit beyond that width to cut it out. Um, After I mounted the rotary axis parallel with the Y, it reduced my capacity in X to 36 inches. I don't mind that. I don't cut half sheets of plywood. I don't cut half sheets of MDF or anything like that. So I'm fine with that. If you decide to run it crossways, parallel with your X, either on the front or the back of the machine, you're going to reduce your ability, your capacity in front of the machine or at the back. If you mount it at the back, you're also limiting yourself on what you can push through tiling. Okay. And that's true if you do a 4x4 or a 4x8. You're still reducing your capacity. So look at what you really truly want to do and decide what your priority is. So if you're doing a lot of full sheets or half sheets of plywood, take that into consideration. Okay. It's the Avid rotary is right around 14 inches wide, but you'll want a little bit of a buffer between your spoil board and your rotary, as you don't want to crash a bit into the rotary. Okay. Um, you can get the Avid with either 8-inch vertical capacity on the Z or 12-inch vertical capacity on the Z. So you can look at that. I can remove the rotary attachment and set it off to the side if I need the full width. But putting the rotary back on it, there's it's a process because then you have to recalibrate and recheck everything, and that's a process. So it's not something to be done lightly. Now, Kurt over at Crafty Jans is saying, can you mount the rotary on the Avid below the flat surface and use the flat surface area? Kind of. You can set the machine down inside the table frame, but the chuck back there is still going to stick up above the table surface. But you also have reduced capacity on your X. Between centers, that is. I think the maximum you can get if it's set down within the table frame is like 23 or 24 inches. Because the rotor, the chuck, the motor that controls the chuck, the capacity of the excuse me, the planetary gearbox that attaches from the motor goes into a planetary gearbox and then into the chuck. That's your gear reduction. And all of that takes up space. That's why I put it along my Y, and the motor and planetary gearbox sits in that dead space that the spindle can't reach anyway. And the jaws of the chuck are about 3 inches into the area that the spindle can actually get to. Um, 8th Center is asking, how much do you lose in the Y just from the chuck? About 3 inches, as I said, because most of it sits way back behind the gantry where the spindle couldn't go anyway. Um, but David, let me say that John Thompson is right. Price can be a big part of it also. As it sits right here, and prices are have changed. But as this sits, this, when it came to me, was $13,000. That's with the rotary. Prices have gone up. You're probably looking closer to $15,000 or $16,000 now. That's a huge amount of money. Yeah, you can finance it, but yeah, that's a healthy chunk. There are other CNCs out there that have rotaries. I believe Onefinity has a good rotary. You can get into brands like Cam Master, and there's a few others out there. Legacy, Laguna. There are a bunch of brands out there. I would say before you spend, and I say this to everybody, whether you're considering a new CNC or if you're new to CNC or you're, if you're pretty experienced with them, sit down and take a good look, honest assessment rather, of exactly what you plan on doing with the machine. And, shop around, set a budget, and look at what you can find within that budget. You may be surprised, you may be horrified. I'll be honest with you, because it really depends on what you want to do. And it depends on how much space you have and how much space you want to take up. Another thing to think about is control systems. Avid recently left Mach 4 behind, just totally broke all ties with them, and they use Centroid Acorn controllers. They're a little bit more complex than the old Mach 4 control system, but it's a more robust control system and a more professional control system. I mean, there are big industrial machines that use Centroid Acorn, and the Centroid-based control system is known worldwide. It is more complex, as I say, but it's very robust. And once you learn it, I mean, the sky's the limit. There are so many things you can do in Centroid. There is also, yes, I see that a few people are suggesting the alt mill. I don't know anything about them. I've never been in the same room with one. I was, to be honest, pretty impressed with the alt mill 4x4. Again, I don't know anything about the rotary. I don't even know if they offer one. I think there's one in development, but I don't know that it's out yet. But if you're still saving up for a machine, that may be one to consider. I guess my point is, let your budget, your conscience be your guide, but sit down and take an honest assessment of exactly what you want to do with it and let that drive you forward, you know? So, I am biased, but I'm also open because I know not everybody has 16 grand, that they're willing to invest. So I hope that helps. Okay. Um, that's not really an answer and probably not the answer you were looking for, but I can't make decisions for people because I don't know what you want to do. Okay. So, Rich Bratcher says, want to discuss baking? Okay. Shall we get into cookies, muffins, bread, whatever? No, what Rich is talking about is um, baking, um, baking 3D models, baking components. I will get to that in just a minute, Rich. I want to address this. Michael Ludwig says, buy your second CNC first. That's one of those things that's real easy to say, but people's needs and people's budgets and people's circumstances change all the time. And it's easy to say buy your second machine first, but maybe you don't know what your second machine should be. When you're first getting into it, the ability to make a sign is great. The ability to cut even 4x4 is great. But needs change. You may move, and now suddenly with this big 4x4, you don't have the room for it. And you may move, and now you have a humongous shop where you can afford a 5x10. So it's not always easy to figure out what your second machine's going to be, because I know several people who either built or bought 8x4 machines and found out they only use about 32 by 24 of that table, and the remaining 4 feet becomes the world's most expensive junk collector. Just tools and scrap and parts and kind of like that end up sitting all over your table because you just don't use it. It's nice to have the ability to throw a piece of plywood on a machine and cut a full sheet of plywood. But ask yourself, how often are you really going to do that? If you're going to be doing that a lot, like if you're going to be making cabinets or furniture that requires a lot of cutting of full sheets, you may not want to be looking at hobby machines at all. You may want to be looking at the more professional machines. But with that said, it's sometimes hard to figure out what your needs really are. And, buyer's remorse, while it's true, that generally happens from overbuying. You know, like I said, it's nice to be able to cut full sheets of plywood, but if you never do that, it's wasted money. If you buy a machine that's too small, you can always get something bigger. There's no law that says you can only have one machine. You know, I know people who have bought the smaller machine, got into CNC and learned how to use it, then set it aside and used that for little sign makers and bought the big machine that they can now do the bigger projects on, while the other machine is sitting over there V carving or even, doing laser work, signing the back of whatever. So, you know, yeah. If you don't know what your second machine will be, then you haven't done enough research, or you're just learning. You're just learning. There is always that. Not everybody buys a CNC router wanting to go into business. I'm an example of that. I'm a weekend warrior, home hobbyist.
I don't sell what I make. I've got kids, grandkids, and a wife that keep me plenty busy. So I make things for friends and family. I don't sell my stuff. Now, I will take the odd commission, but I'm very selective about that. So, it's not it wouldn't do me any good to have an ATC, for example. Avid offers an ATC. I don't want it. I don't need it. Um, the rotary I will use not very often. It's not like, again, I'm not in business, but I do need to make spokes for spinning wheels, the big drive wheel. I do need to make legs for spinning wheels because I fix them up for my wife. But, you know, my priority is completely different from somebody going into business. If you're going into business, you should be looking for a professional machine. If you're a home hobbyist that just wants to make the oddball piece and this just be another tool, an employee that comes in without a hangover on Monday morning, then you may not need the big super deluxe bells and whistles and does everything but shovel your driveway and rake your front yard, you know. So sometimes it's hard to know what your second machine should be when you are still learning what your first machine is and what it can do. So, hey, do your research, go from there. Now, baking. Let's get into baking. And we will go here. Let's see. We'll come over here and I'll create a new file because we're going to get into some 3D stuff here. And this is all well and good. This is fine. We'll click OK. No, we won't. We'll go back because I need to change my modeling resolution because this is going to be 3D. I want to go very high. We'll go OK. Now, for baking, I need to have a couple of pieces out here. So let's jump into clip art and I'm going to do something easy. We'll go with the dome and I'm going to use a 45-degree dome. Double click and put one out here. And here in the 2D view, I'm going to hold down Shift and I'm going to enlarge this from the center. Just bring it out to about like so. Okay. Now, get back into the design tab here. And I want to look at my size. And we're 9.73 and I've got a 12 by 12. I'll go ahead and make it 10 inches just for giggles. Now, before I do that, I've got auto scale Z checked. So when I enlarge this, and when I enlarged it before just by pulling it out, it automatically scaled my Z thickness. Well, I've already done it, so I might as well go ahead and leave that checked. But if you ever get into a situation where you want to resize a 3D model, but you do not want to change its height, the shape height, the thickness of the 3D model, you would uncheck that. Okay. So we'll go 10.0 and that change the height and width. Apply. All right. And we'll close that. Then with it selected, I'm going to come over here to my components tab. I'm going to right click and go into properties. Right now, our shape height's at 1.454. I've got 3/4 inch material. I can't do that. So I'm going to have to change my shape height to 0.5. Let that catch up, let that update, and now we're good. Let's close it. And here it is in my 3D view. All right, that's going to work just fine. All right. Now we'll go into clip art and I'm going to bring in our old pal Wally Gator here. double click to put one out here on top of my dome. I'm going to go into my component tab. Now, my alligator was brought in with a combine mode of add, while my dome dish is using a merge combine mode. So I'm going to click off over here. We can see that Wally has been added to the top of that dome. And we can see his shape is contoured to that dome. And that's perfect. Okay, now let me make sure that Wally is the right size. So we'll go back over here to the Design tab. We'll select Wally. Come over here to Set Size, and we can see he's 5 inches by 2 inches. That's fine, but I want a little bit more. Let's go with 7 inches, 7.0 by 2.67, but I'm going to turn off Auto Scale Z. Apply, and now he's bigger in X and Y, but not thicker in Z. But I still got to look into this. So with Wally selected, I'll come back over to my Components tab. Then I'm going to check the properties. And we're looking at 0.35 plus 5. We're a little bit too tall. Let's go with 0.25. All right. No, I say let's go with 0.25. All right. So now he's a little bit shorter, but he should fit within my material. Okay. Now I've got the option here to bake. That's not really going to help a lot right now. What baking does, let's just get that out. What baking does is when you make a modification, it basically makes that modification permanent. And there are certain things where that is necessary. There are certain things where that's not necessary. Right now, it's not necessary that I bake this modification into Wally. Now, if I applied a fade or a tilt to Wally, I might want to bake it so that that fade or tilt cannot be changed. But it's not really important that I bake Wally by himself. So I'll go ahead and close this. Eight Center is asking, Mark, just curious, can you bend a model onto something like a dome, or is it a case of thicken the base and then drop it onto it? Well, as you see right here, what I've done is I've dropped Wally onto this dome, and it's taken on that shape. So let's now that you mention it, let's think about that, okay? Let me go back into properties. Now I've got Wally selected. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click bake. Okay. Now it's changed the name, the Alligator 3D Clip Art Baked. Okay. Now let's close the properties, and I'm going to turn off that dome. So let's flip it over and let's look. It did not bake that shape. into Wally. So if you were looking to drop it, if you were looking to drop it onto a dome, then bake it, it does not change the shape of the original model. To keep that curve, I would still need to have that dome underneath it, you see? But just bringing it in without baking it, it does create that shape. You don't need to add a base height. You can if you want to, but it's not necessary. So we'll go look at it from the top. And now let's see. Can I undo that baking? I'll try Control Z. And it did. It allowed me to undo the bake. So I still can adjust it if I need to. But if I select the alligator and the dome, right click and bake, they now become one model. They become one component, and they are now inseparable. I can't select one without selecting the other. So basically what baking does in this context is it takes two components and turns them into one. So they are joined. Now, because I just did this, Control Z, and it unbaked them. However, if I bake these and then save and close the file and then come back, they can't be unbaked. So there's that. Okay. Brooks Martin says, if you hold down the control key when you hit the bake icon, it will retain a copy of the original components and create a new baked component instead of replacing the original selection. Yes. Yes. So what he's saying is if I select these two, hold down Shift, and then hold down Control and bake, it makes a new one without changing the old ones. They're still there. But here's my new component. Both of them baked together. But if I turn these two back on and then turn off this one, I can still select and modify. Click off and select Wally instead. Okay, so in its simplest form, baking two components together joins them, combines them into one component. Okay. Can you save a baked model as a new model, or would you have to save it as a template file? You can save it as a new model. If you have Aspire, if you're working in VCarve, you cannot create a model. And that's what this would do. Now, let me turn these back on and see if I can Control Z my way back to, okay, so I no longer have a baked alligator. Sounds like I'm cooking in Louisiana. But there is another control we have out here on the design tab. Let me turn that off. And that is Let's see. Maybe it's out here. I don't remember if it's out here or not. Come on. Yes, bake the selected components into, hold down shift and select Wally. Bake selected components into a new single component. That is an option. Big time, right there. It's the same thing as doing that out in the back in the component tree. You also have this one down here. Create a component from the visible model with draft added. Where is the other one? You can also create a component from the visible model. There it is right there. So this is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to create a component from the visible model. I have my dome. I have Wally. I'm going to click that icon. Now when I go over to my Components tab, there's a copy of the visible model. 99 times out of 100, you want to put this on a new layer. Excuse me, a new level, not a new layer. Levels work similar to layers in the 2D view. Not identical, but they are similar. So all I'll do is I'll come up here and I'll right click on level 1 and insert a new level. So I have level 2. Now I'm going to draw this copy up to level 2. So now I have this visible model. I can turn off level 1. So I'm working with this only. All right. So now I can bring in more clip art. Let's say I'm not going to go with animals. What am I going to go with? I'll look at decorative. And for some reason, I want, what do I want? I want a fleur-de-lis to go along with Wally. I'm going to do this in the 2D view. I want to go into my design tab and I'm going to make the size of that fleur-de-lis. I'm going to make it 2 inches tall. Apply. I'll drag it down here. And auto scale Z is turned off. And we'll come over here to the component tree and the fleur-de-lis is set to merge. And that's why we see green here. We don't see the fleur-de-lis. I need to change my combine mode to add. And now it's visible. Okay. So I'm adding all this stuff up here to this model, but I'm not affecting these down here. When you get into building highly detailed, complex models, and you've got, say, I've got my alligator and my dome, I've got them placed the way I want them, no changes. And now, so I've created the copy of the visible model here, and I should rename this actually. Let's rename Gator Dome. There we go. Sounds good. So this is set. This is set. No changes needed. And I added my fleur-de-lis. Now Steve has asked, can you array copy a component? I certainly can. Go back into the design tab and we'll select my fleur-de-lis. I'll do a, it's probably going to get into Wally, but you know, we're just doing what the heck. I want to set my rotation center right off the bat while I'm thinking about it. I want to set it to the center. So I double click the center of this illustration right here. I want to go with 4. I don't want to rotate the copies. I want them to stay upright, oriented just like this. So I'm going to uncheck that, and you can see how that illustration changes to reflect that. I want 4 for a total angle of 360, and we'll copy. And there we go. I've got my 4 fleur-de-lis. They're blending into Wally. That's not optimal. So click off, select this one, delete, select this one, delete. But I've got one on the top and on the bottom, so you can array copy components. Let's see. Raised text, home of the Gators. There you go. So then I can come along back into my component tree, and I can select, hold down Shift, select, right click, and bake that. So now this is one component. If I select any of this, it's all baked. It's one object. Let me Control Z to undo that, because I don't really want to do that. Instead, what I'll do is I'll create another level, insert new level, and hold down Shift, select all 3 of these, come back out to the Design tab, and once again, create a component from the visible model. I can go back into my component tree. There's a copy, and it's in level 3. And I can rename that. But again, turn that off, and there is my visible model. But again, I haven't changed any of this stuff. I can go back if I need to and make changes. So it's just a way of keeping everything arranged so that when you've got a long list of components and you've done some work that you want to keep, that you want to save, baking them together and placing them on a separate level so that it's not destructive to the previous versions of all of these clips. It's a way of making sure everything stays editable, but then again, you're working in, it's kind of like making a copy of an image that you're still working on. You have your original, you save a copy so you don't damage your original. This is more or less the same thing. You're saving a copy that you can edit further without damaging your original. I'm gesticulating and using my hands like you can see me. So that's basically what baking is about. It's when you've made a change that you want finalized, you want it set in stone, you bake them together. But when you do that, you tend to remove the ability to edit those. Alan Williamson is asking, so baking in 3D is same or similar to grouping? Not really. When you group in 2D, you're taking separate vectors and putting them in a group, but you have the ability to take them out of that group and edit each one individually. When you bake something, you're making that change permanent. Now, again, if you have a spire, I can, oops, let's get out of that. Let me get back over here and we're going to standard select mode. Okay. Over here in my component tree, I've got my copy of my visible model here. 8 Center was asking, can I save that model? If you have a spire, you can come up here to model and you can export it as an STL. You can export it as a grayscale bitmap. You can export it as 3D clip art. So yes, you can export this model and save it. I tend to, when I do something like this, I tend to export it as 3D clip art. Then I will put it in a clip art folder. Like I have my clip art down here. Come on. Oh, I don't have that hard drive. Yeah, I don't have that hard drive hooked up to this computer. Oh well. The point being is I can save it as export it as clip art, put it in the folder, and then it's available to me in the clip art library. If you happen to have that external hard drive plugged into this computer, which I don't. So, baking is a handy tool. It's not always necessary, but basically what it does is it makes those changes you've done to it permanent. So it's an in-process save, not really, because you're still not saving the file. You're technically saving the changes you have made to 3D component. It's usually used when you have more than one component. It's not usually used. It can be, but not usually used on a single component. So I don't know if that confusicated anybody or if that helped anybody out, but there are quick ways of basically saving models. Anyway, and I just after I just said no, it's not a save. Okay, 8 Center wants to know, is there a fast way to reset the XY0 without going to job parameters and working out the offset placements? Not really, not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of. You, generally speaking, have to go back into job setup and change your offset there. So, if I understand your question correctly, that is. So, Michael Ludwig has a point. Says, what's nice about Save as STL is you can 3D print from there. Yeah, you sure can. Oops, sorry. Didn't mean to do that. Yeah, you certainly can. And that's actually pretty cool, you know. And there's still a little bit of magical voodoo about that, as far as I'm concerned. The ability to take something out of your brain and then get into a piece of software like this, model it up, and then 3D print it or carve it. To me, that's just, I'm old school. I remember when doing this stuff took hours to do by hand. And maybe you had some machines to help you along the way, clearing out material with a drill press and all that other good stuff. But you still came down to hand carving, and it was just like, wow. And that's something that I never really got into. But you take somebody like John Thompson, who made my logo back there and sent it to me. And thank you, John. He just decided, yeah, I can take that and I can do this and I can put it on my laser and then zip, 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 and a little bit of paint, and there you go. And that's awesome. That's fantastic, you know? So I still think there's a little bit of voodoo in there. H Center wants to know, do you have a 3D printer? No, I do not. Um, and I want one, but I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want. I I used to think I would never use a 3D printer. Now I know that I would. The problem is I don't think I need a 3D printer until I need a 3D printer, if that makes any sense. Um, I just I'm not sure what I want yet, and I'm looking, believe me. And if somebody wants to send me one, here I am. But I've turned down several because they were kind of you know. But one day I'll have one. It just right now I've got other priorities. I'm getting my mini split. I am getting my mini split. That's it. That's it. So, oh yeah, absolutely no doubt in my mind that it's very handy for making proto, and also handy for that little bracket that you just broke that you didn't know you needed. Now you can print another one, you know. Um what's a mini split? It is a it's a heating and air conditioning unit, and you should see it. Let me look at the dates here. You should see it Sunday, July 13th, because it's being installed July 8th. And it'll be along the back wall, mostly out of view, but up there on the top. Let me play with my camera here. Um, you see the Route 66 sign up there behind my dust collector hose. It'll be somewhere below that and hanging down into view on the back wall. And it'll blow heat and air conditioning into the shop from there. They call it a mini split because the actual air conditioning unit will be outside, and this will just be a fan that blows the hot or cold air in, but the actual guts will be outside. So the two units are split rather than like this big old honking thing with the two hoses running out the window sitting right behind me that I've been using, and the little space heaters like that one that you can see right there, and just barely see the top of that one right there. Those will be going away, and this will be going away, and I will get this door back, and I will have a little bit more space in here. So that is happening over the course of the next couple of weeks. On a related note, on Sunday, get into June and July. So next Sunday, June 29th, there will not be a live Q&A. I'm going to be out here working. I've got to prep for the electrician who is coming out on Tuesday, the 20th, the 1st of July, rather. So there will not be a Sunday live Q&A next week. There will be one July 6th because the electrician will be done. Channel members, there will be a members only live stream inside. I'll do it from inside in the house, but there won't be a live Q&A on Sunday because I have to be out here getting prepped for the electrician, which means this table, this computer system, all this will be moved and broken down and out of here. So I'll be out here doing this. But members, there will be a members only live stream on the 30th, Monday the 30th. And then everything hopefully will be back to normal the following Sunday, July 6th, and Monday, July 7th. So, that is basically it for any programming notes on all of this. Here's a good one from Michael Ludwig. Make sure they use shielded wire from outdoor unit to indoor unit, or your CNC will affect the thermostat. I will bring that up. But it's a Mitsubishi 12,000 BTU unit. That should be all shielded. Now, I know the cables on the CNC, all that is shielded, but I also have dust collection running over there. I may have to change my dust collection a little bit. I don't know if any static's going to. I will talk to them about that, but that's going to produce static, and is that going to do anything with the thermostat? Good one. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. We've kind of, I'm tap dancing here because I think I've gotten all the questions. Again, do head over to the community tab and vote, please, on whether I should move to Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, or stay in this time slot, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. If you want to leave a comment, you can. That's great. But do please vote in the poll. So, all right. Let's see. Okay. Let's see what happens here. I don't know if you can help with this one, Mark. I'll try. But I had a time rotating an angled part to align vertically or horizontally. Did you use, let me get back over here. I had geometry snapping turned on, but even holding Alt, it wasn't locking on to the 90 or the 0. Okay. It wasn't locking on to the 90 or 0. Okay. Again, let's spotlight over here real quick. Did you use rotate selected object? Because that will rotate whether, you select the object and you can do an absolute rotation that will take you to 45. Apply and shaboom. An absolute, it doesn't matter what you've got this set at. If you rotate it here, let's rotate it there. Now we're at 12.114 degrees. If I set an absolute rotation of why you didn't go to 90 degrees. Make me a liar. Okay, now give me a 90 degree. Oh, that is 90 degrees. Gosh, Mark, go to 0 degrees. That was 90. There. Need to get my head out. Let's see. No, I didn't use that. I was using the control points, but the vector had many lines and different angles. Okay. I had to keep rotating things to add new hole positions to drill. You can try selecting all. Now this is going over, again, I got 3D components here. But in the 2D view, you can hold down Control and tap the letter A, that is select all, and then rotate. If you select all and rotate, I'm using my hands again here, hold on. If you select all and rotate, it will keep things respective to where they are. It will rotate everything to those positions. Okay. So get in and play with it. I mean, there are all kinds of things that can be done with that rotation. I still, my hand, I'm almost ready to start making tutorial vids again, and I'll get into, I did a video on rotation. I still need to do a video on mirroring, and I will get to that. Mirroring, then it's going to go into distorting. But use those rotation tools, use those move tools. They will help you out in all of that. Respective to where they are is the problem. I had lines at angles like 19.2, 7.6. I couldn't lock to one specific. Okay. Well, you know, I'm sorry. Oh, I see. I needed one specific line to lock to 90. Okay, well, let me bring this back over here, and I will draw a line, and I'll just go there. Close. So I have that line. I can take this line, and there's my starting point right there. If I go into rotation, now what I need to figure out is the rotation center. I can rotate this line, but the rotation center, this bullseye, that's the pivot point. If I want the pivot point to be the end up here, I can grab that rotation center and drag it up here. If I want that pivot point to be down at the other end, I can drag it down there. I can move that pivot point anywhere along that line. Or I can drag that pivot point somewhere out there if I want it to pivot around this point. Or if I want it to pivot around X0, Y0. So it doesn't have to be anywhere along the line, or it can be along the line. Say I want it to pivot from the center of the line. There it is. Okay. Now I can come over here and I can do an absolute rotation, or I can do a relative rotation. If I do a relative rotation of, say, 90 degrees, it's going to rotate 90 degrees based on what the angle is now. So let's apply that, and there we go. But if I do an absolute rotation of 90 degrees, it's going to go to 90 degrees. Okay? So there is that. Ray Dixon says, I've noticed that when I preview a quick engrave toolpath, that the engraving is very light. After I run the second preview, the carving shows up properly. Have you experienced this? The quick engrave toolpath, you are very lucky to get any kind of preview out of it at all, simply because of that's the way the toolpath is designed. It's designed to like scratch, engrave like aluminum or stainless or something like that. So it's going to make a very, very faint line. And that's why it does that. That is normal. If you do it again, it may or may not preview. And it may preview a bit better. But the quick engrave toolpath was never meant really to be previewed, which is why they have the save the G code right there within the toolpath. So you're lucky to get a preview at all. So okay. Yeah, Jay Scotia has it right there. Click on one line and use the measure tool to see its angle. Then select all of them and rotate them by the correct amount to make that line 90. Yeah, there you go. Just a quick workaround. And so, all right, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Again, next Sunday there will not be a Sunday live Q&A because I'll be in here tearing my shop apart to let the electrician get in and do his thing. And but next Monday, let me make sure that I'm correct. Yes, next Monday, July 30th or June 30th. Mark, wake up. There will be a members only live stream from in the house. That will also be episode 1 of season 4, members only live streams. Tomorrow, channel members, is going to be our annual best of. We're going to take a look back at all of the projects that you folks have sent me pictures of over the last year. Now, I'm not going to go through every single photo, but what I am is I'm picking out my favorite from each week, my favorites from each one of you folks who have sent me project photos, and we're going to go back through them and we're going to check them out. That's going to be episode 52, the season finale of season 3 of the Mark Lindsay CNC channel memberships. We're going to check out your projects, and basically my wood nerd meter is just going to be pegged out for the entire show, and that's all there is to it. So check the community tab / membership tab / post tab, whichever you're seeing in your device, and there is a link there to the members only live stream tomorrow evening. If you don't know what I'm talking about, or if you would like to become a channel member, be part of this elite group, the few, the proud, the channel members, there's a little join button somewhere down below this video panel right here. I think it's over on this side, but I could be wrong. Click on that join panel, and another panel is going to pop up and a video is going to play that'll tell you all about channel membership. Now, we got a great crowd. Really, these are some of the best people I've met. There's not an ego amongst them, and every single one of them is out to do one thing: help people make sure they succeed. And I praise you guys, and I thank you guys for that. I really appreciate every one of you. So if you want to be a part of that crowd, click on that little join button, check out the video, and it'll tell you how to be part of that crowd. For everybody else, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for sharing my videos. And thank you for going over to that poll and answering that simple question, yes or no. You don't have to leave a comment, but you're more than welcome to. Should I stay here at this time slot, or should I move to 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern? So I hope you all are having a great Sunday. Thank you for spending part of your Sunday with me. And until week after next on Sunday, y'all take care.